It's your boy, the hater, and guess what, bitches? I'm back, and I'm back for good. Now, some of you may be wondering, some of you have been emailing me, say, hater, where'd you go? And the answer is nowhere, motherfucks. Everything's perfectly fine. Thank you to the people that emailed me with concerns. Totally fine, motherfucks. Things are going just as good as always. In fact, better than ever, I would say. Now, the reason why I haven't made any videos for, I think it's almost 2 months now, maybe at least a month, right? It's just because things haven't been happening in wrestling. But finally, things are happening again. And even if they weren't, I was going to make my return around this time anyways, because Royal Rumble, of course, marks the beginning of Hater Mania, which means a video every day, motherfucks. So I'm going to try to do as many videos as I can, and I'm going to try to reestablish the Hater channel as what it was always meant to be. And that is a voice for alternative opinions, talking some truth. No fucking biases over here. We just say it like we see it, motherfuckers. We're not out here, oh, this guy retweeted me, I'm going to be friends with him and say he's good. We're not out here to pretend. That's one thing that I don't fucking like doing, We're not out here to pretend, and there's a lot of pretenders, in the world of wrestling. I don't mean other YouTubers because I don't really watch any other YouTubers, I'll watch the occasional, Casual Q, Jay Rance, the two guys that I actually like, But, generally speaking, I'm not here to make any kind of favoritisms with any kind of wrestlers, If I like it, I'm going to say I like it. If I like it, then I start hating it, I'm going to say that, motherfucks, like with Keith Lee. And if I hate it the whole time, like Karrion Kross, I'm going to say that. And that brings me to, I don't want to say the topic for today's video, because today's video is more like a reintroduction in this bitch. It's going to be me talking about some things that have happened since I last made my video. One of them is going to be this weird, ongoing, motherfucks, this ongoing opinion that WWE ruins people, alright? We've talked about this before, but it's more relevant than ever, After Karrion Kross was fired, I thought to myself, no one can argue that WWE ruined this guy. They gave this guy everything that someone could have gotten, and he just didn't get over enough, He didn't get over enough. Oh, but hater, he wasn't pushed on the main roster. Yeah, there's a reason for that, motherfucks. Because on the main roster, you have to compete with Randy Orton. And you put Karrion Kross next to Randy Orton, and you look at Randy Orton, and you're like, wow, Randy Orton is superior to him in every metric possible. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because Randy Orton is superior to many people in every metric possible. But the point I'm trying to make is that he's not visually appealing on TV because he has one expression, right? And now the most recent of these ridiculous releases and the subsequent WWE what could have been argument. I just saw a video of Mustafa Ali, who apparently has been released, and he had a video of it was like a vignette. Mustafa Ali talking about a new America. It was 2 minutes and 30 seconds long on Twitter. I saw about half of it. I couldn't get past it, man. It was so boring. Mustafa Ali sucks. Mustafa Ali is literally everything that's wrong with wrestling, It's this entitled attitude. Mustafa Ali has not drawn one dime for WWE. So honestly, I'm going to say it, motherfucks. I'm going to say it. People might not like it, but it's the truth, Back in the day, Vince McMahon was known to tell people what to do, He'd be like, you're doing this, and that's the end of that, motherfucks. And nobody had the balls to quit because there were no other alternatives. Now you can go work at ROH. If you're Mustafa Ali, you can easily get a job and become a mid-carder in AEW and feud aimlessly with Dante Martin, you know what I mean? He could do that. That could be the rest of his career. So he has the capacity to leave, which is good for him. Good for the wrestler. I don't have anything against Mustafa Ali personally. It's just more his wrestling persona and the kind of character that this man seems to have when it comes to wrestling. He's under the impression that he's the next Rock. So he thinks he can go to Vince McMahon's office and be like, I have a new idea for a gimmick. Basically saying, hey, Vince, can I have my 19th chance to get over and fail again? Because this guy's been given opportunities. It's not Vince's fault that Retribution was one of the worst ideas in the history of wrestling, easily, in my opinion, the worst faction in wrestling history. It was like if there was a video game made and Retribution was in it, Ali would get a boosted rating of 80 out of 100 just out of respect. And then Shane Thorne and T-Bar and Mace, they would have 65 ratings. There was a faction of Sawyer Fultons. Remember when Sanity came around and Sawyer Fulton was in the WWE game, he had a 65 rating even though he's a big dude. It'd be like that. It'd be a faction of Sawyer Fultons, It failed from the beginning because it was stupid, right? And Mustafa Ali apparently went along with it. And the story goes that Mustafa Ali asked for his release because he was given, something was pitched to him that he would never do. He didn't want to do it, right? How could it be worse than Retribution? The only thing that I can think of is something having to do with the fact that he's from Pakistan or whatever, right? Some sort of Pakistani gimmick or some sort of Muslim gimmick or something like that. Which, good for him for refusing to play the fiddle basically to Vince McMahon's demands. But at the same time, there's fucking nothing wrong with that either, People need to fucking separate themselves from reality, motherfucks. You know what I'm saying? Booker T is a black guy stereotype in many ways, right? But it's not presented as like him being stupid or inferior or anything like that, even though people made fun of him for it sometimes. You know, they're like, you're a retard, because he would act retarded sometimes, right? He's like this hyper-aggressive guy. But we all know Booker T rules, number one. And number two, perhaps most importantly, motherfuckers, the gimmick that a character, that a wrestler plays, it's not supposed to be this social commentary always. Sometimes you need a stereotype because stereotypes are hilarious. You know, let's look at my favorite stereotype in wrestling history, Eddie Guerrero. This man's career was a series of stereotypical Latino characters. And it was amazing. All the gimmicks were amazing. Chavo Guerrero, same thing. Once he's hopped on the Eddie Guerrero bandwagon and he started having the Eddie Guerrero gimmicks tied to him, right? You know, eventually he became Kerwin White, which a lot of people didn't like. But that was beautiful because it was an anti-stereotype. It was a Hispanic guy who's tired of being a Hispanic stereotype. So much so that he wants to be like a white guy stereotype, right, who plays golf. It was hilarious. You know, people were like, oh, it's a little risque. It's only risque if you're a pussy and you look at it and you're like, oh, this offends me. You know, if you look at it as the tongue-in-cheek joke that it is, you just laugh along, motherfucks. So unless the gimmick that was pitched to Mustafa Ali was something degrading or humiliating, having to do with his culture, identity, religion, or anything like that, then maybe you should have done it. Maybe you could get over like that. Like what's his name? Not Mustafa Hassan. Muhammad Hussein. Mustafa Hassan. Muhammad Hassan. There you go. Muhammad Hassan, right? That was a stereotypical thing. You know, the disgruntled Arab guy, right, who doesn't feel American. And this was the same thing that Mustafa Ali wanted to make his gimmick. Here's the problem. He doesn't have the charisma that Muhammad Hassan had. He doesn't have Davari, who is Davari would be like towering over Mustafa Ali. Davari's jacked. Mustafa Ali ain't. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have a Davari, right? He doesn't have anything. And more importantly than all that, it's not so much that he doesn't have the qualities that Muhammad Hassan had. Because those are rare qualities to be that charismatic and that able to get into character. The real thing that holds people like Mustafa Ali back, and the crux of this video, is the fact that Mustafa Ali sucks ass. And he's been given so many opportunities. So it's like if you've dropped the ball 9 times, you don't get a 10th shot. This is the problem with a lot of wrestling fans and their logic of like, WWE didn't know how to use the person. What's WWE supposed to do? Push everyone to win the Royal Rumble? Oh, they don't know how to use Ricochet. No, yes they do. That's how you use Ricochet. Oh, Malachi Black was held down in WWE. What's he doing in AEW? He's been there for like fucking year, motherfuckers. Let's see how long this motherfucker... Let me Google it on my phone while I talk to you, motherfuckers. Let's see how long Aleister Black has been in AEW. It's got to be almost a year. You know what I'm saying? It's been a minute. You know? And what the fuck has he done? Fucking nothing, alright? So, you tell me, you know, what should WWE do with these guys? What should WWE do with Mustafa Ali? He got like one of the biggest pushes for a jobber ever, right? He was made the leader of like a faction that was supposed to be a huge deal. Oh, he's been there for 6 months. Malachi Black came out July 7th. So in 6 months, let's see what he'll have accomplished. Absolutely nothing. His career is literally the same career he had on SmackDown. He's done nothing. It's worse than his NXT career, because in NXT at least he became champion. You know, he's done absolutely nothing with his career. So the rationale here isn't WWE's not giving enough opportunities, because they do give you one opportunity. Get over, motherfuckers. Get over. If you're someone that's good, WWE will recognize that. You know, I would go as far as saying there is almost no one in this last year and a half, during the whole pandemic, there's been maybe one person that I can think of for real that was fired and deserves more. And that person is John Morrison. That's another thing that I want to talk about. John Morrison has been released. It is unreasonable that John Morrison got released before Mustafa Ali. John Morrison is better than Mustafa Ali in literally every metric that it takes to be better at as a wrestler. He's better looking. He's more athletic. He has a better physique. He's better on the mic. He's more charismatic. You know what I mean? He's more experienced, right? He'll probably wrestle for longer. He has more stamina. He has more endurance. He has a bigger fan base. He has more storylines. He has more championships. He's better than Mustafa Ali in every capacity. John Morrison is one of the only wrestlers in the last few years in WWE, in my opinion, that has stood out. He has had memorable moments in the last 2 years, which have been the worst years, in my opinion, of wrestling history. You know? So he was shafted. He should not have gotten released. You know, but everybody else, the Mustafa Ali's of the world, fuck these guys. These guys haven't drawn a dime to this company. All they do is take away and complain and bitch and moan. And I'm supposed to watch a 2-minute promo of Mustafa Ali on New America? It's the same fucking thing as Muhammad Hassan, except you're not cool. And more importantly, motherfucks, Muhammad Hassan was introduced like that. So, like, Muhammad Hassan apparently is like an Italian-American. If you had brought him in as, like, you'd given him, like, a Tony D'Angelo, like, character, right? Like, an Italian-American mobster-type stereotype, then change him to Muhammad Hassan, it would be retarded. Nobody would want to see that, right? This is the same thing with Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali is talking about how he wants to be treated equal. Dude, 3 months ago, you were with a group of renegades burning down WWE. You know, are we supposed to forget the fact that you were given a contract, basically you weren't fired, just as a result of, like, some other bullshittery that happened, and now you can't just repackage someone like that. You can repackage him like that in AEW. If he goes to AEW, you can give him that gimmick. It's going to fail miserably. No one's going to care. Eventually, it's going to be like this. He's going to go after Cody Rhodes. Here's Mustafa Ali's career from now on, motherfucks. He's going to go to AEW. He's going to attack Cody Rhodes. Right? And then Cody Rhodes is going to cut a promo about how what it means to be American is not to be a racist. You can be an American and be like Mustafa Ali. And the reason why people don't like Mustafa Ali and they like, quote-unquote, Cody Rhodes is because Cody Rhodes is a good man and Mustafa Ali is a bitch. That's literally what's going to happen. Then Mustafa Ali is going to beat Cody Rhodes once. Right? Then he might beat him again. And then in the end, Cody Rhodes is going to beat Mustafa Ali. And Mustafa Ali will join the long list of AEW jobbers like Lance Archer and fucking Miro and all these jabrones who eventually lose to someone better than them. And then they are relegated to complete nothingness. That's literally Mustafa Ali's career. You're welcome, motherfucks. You're welcome up in this bitch. You know? Now, before I leave you, let's talk about the landscape. Alright? The landscape. Apparently, Cody Rhodes is a TNT champion again. Who gives a balls? Alright? Jade Cargill, I think, won the women's mid-card title. Who gives a shit? The only reason why she has that title is because they don't want to make her champion, but they don't want to make her lose. Because it's unreasonable that any woman in the AEW roster, except for maybe Nyla Rose, would have a chance to beat Jade Cargill in real life. So instead of making her their champion, they'll make her the mid-card champion, you know, just to keep her victory streak, or undefeated streak, I should say, going, right? That's the landscape. The AEW champion is now Adam Page. I personally believe that since he's become champion, AEW has been worse than ever, but that's neither here nor there. AEW has always sucked, so who knows, right? I hope that he loses his title to someone more worthy, but we will see. Next, I want to talk about the Royal Rumble. Now, considering the landscape of the Royal Rumble, which is in a few weeks, considering the things that have happened, it's very, very difficult to predict what's going to happen in the Royal Rumble. You know, personally, the people that I thought would win would be either Brock Lesnar, who is now going to be in a championship match because he's a champion. I thought it would have been good to make Jeff Hardy the winner, but he's been released since I made my last video, so it's not going to be him. So now, who could it be? People that I've been talking to are saying maybe it's Kevin Owens, and sure, it could be Kevin Owens if their goal is to find the least relevant Royal Rumble winner of all time. Yes, make it Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens has no business being in the main event of anything, let's be honest. He had that opportunity, and it failed. Alright? It failed when he was WWE champion, and he was paired with Jericho, and Jericho had to carry his ass. You know, that's what happened. Let's be honest, motherfuckers. He had the opportunity of a lifetime. He became champion in a storyline involving Triple H choosing him as champion. He was paired with Jericho, one of the GOATs. And then I remember him cutting some shitty promos, and Jericho having to interject and help with the promos. I remember it vividly. Which means that he wasn't held back. He's just not good enough. So Kevin Owens winning the Rumble, no reason for that. Everyone else is either a number one contender or a champion. You know, it could have been Big E. It's not. He's the number one contender. Could have been Rollins. It's not. He's in the match. Reigns, same shit. So where does that leave us? I'll tell you where that leaves us. That leaves us, in my opinion, with two possibilities. One, you really have to pull someone out of obscurity and make them champion. Kind of like when Jinder Mahal became champion, you have to do that same thing. So it could be like AJ Styles, which I believe now is obscure because he spent the time feuding with Omos, doing nothing, and now he's feuding with Grayson Waller in NXT. So it could be someone like that. It could be Omos, if you really want to push him. I think that's a horrible idea. Omos has Great Khali, but 50 times worse than Great Khali written all over him. Omos will never become a huge star. So it's either that, it's either pull someone from obscurity and just create a main eventer like they did with Drew McIntyre, kind of, while he's getting his ass beat like every week, and then all of a sudden he's like winning the Royal Rumble. Either you do that, or, because you also have The Miz and Edge in an actual match, so it can't be either one of them either. They too would have made a pretty good candidate. Or, in my opinion, what they should do, and that is bring back a legend and have the legend win the Rumble. The legends that I can think of course, obviously some of these things are impossible or very unlikely, but there's two that come to mind. It could be The Rock. He comes back, wins the Rumble, and then goes on to fight Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, which everyone's been wanting to see. That's not really a dream match, but nevertheless, they're presenting it such. Oh, and third option. It could be Triple H. You know what I'm saying? I hate to say it, but we are due for a Triple H coming around to save the wrestling for a little bit once again. And in my opinion, the way that I would book it is as follows. Since WrestleMania has 2 nights, the main event of night 1 is champion versus champion, motherfucks. Lesnar versus Reigns. Because that is a huge match that people actually want to see. One-on-one, decided, fair and square. Right? Reigns versus Lesnar. Right? I would have this match end in a screwy finish. Right? Double count out, double disqualification, 1 hour draw, whatever, it doesn't matter. In a way where there is no clear winner. Right? Now you're thinking to yourself, hater. And that's doesn't even have to be the main event. It could be like the second to last match. The main event could be like the women's match or something of night 1. Then the main event of night 2 would be billed as the winner of the Royal Rumble versus the winner of the first championship match, the title versus title. Now, since both of those guys didn't win or lose, we get a triple threat. So it would be my fantasy booking. Roman Reigns, the main event of WrestleMania night 2. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar versus the winner of the Royal Rumble. The Undertaker, player. Hear me out, motherfucks. Undertaker has lost to Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Those are his only WrestleMania losses. Undertaker is still within the purview of WWE. Yes, he retired, but he's going to come back at some point. It might as well be now when he's in his mid-50s and can still go to a certain level, right? The way I would end the match is this. First of all, Taker comes out at like number 30 or number 29 or something like that. Number 30 would suffice. Taker comes out at number 30, wins the Royal Rumble. You don't want to overexert him, and you want to keep a big surprise for number 30. He comes in there, he eliminates like Omos in the end. That'd be perfect, because Omos is a big motherfucker. Taker eliminates Omos. Also, it would be a great moment because the whole crowd would be cheering for Taker because nobody likes Omos. So they'd be cheering for Taker. Taker eliminates Omos, does the Taker pose, WrestleMania. Triple threat match. Taker, early in the match, gets put through a table. Lesnar and Reigns wrestle a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to be a long match. In the end, Taker comes back, hits the snake eyes, hits the big boot, hits the leg drop. Right? Someone gets speared, someone gets F5, someone gets chokeslammed. Long story short, motherfucks, the match ends as follows. Brock Lesnar picks up Taker for the F5, speared by Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns goes to pin Lesnar, 1, 2, Lesnar kicks out. Roman Reigns goes after Undertaker to do like a move on him of any sort, maybe the guillotine. Taker counters it, hits a tombstone. Then Lesnar goes after Taker. Taker counters it, hits a tombstone. Taker folds up the arms of both guys, sticks out his tongue, and pins them both. Clean in the middle of the ring. Taker has avenged his losses. Taker is the world champion, and or whatever, the WWE champion and the Universal champion. Taker comes out on Raw the next night and says, "That's it, motherfucks. This time I'm really retired." Right? You take both titles, you have like a 64-man tournament, do whatever the fuck you want, who cares anymore, right? Or you just end wrestling right there, right? And there you have it. Taker avenges his losses, cementing himself as the GOAT. He beats the unbeatable 2 guys, and then the unbeatable 2 guys, Lesnar and Reigns, can still, because one of the reasons why they're unbeatable and they're at the level they are at is because they beat Taker. Now they can come back and fight for the titles, and they're still the 2 baddest guys because Taker was like a one-off, basically, right? Or the fourth option, the nuclear option, Cena comes back and wins the Rumble. There is literally not one wrestler in WWE that is good enough to main event WrestleMania that is not in a singles match or something of the sort at the Rumble. No one that's going to be in the Royal Rumble is good enough, right? The only options are the things that I outlined. And I will say this. If you have to pull someone from obscurity and make them champion, it's going to have to be Cesaro, motherfucks. It's time. If you're ever going to make it happen with this motherfucker, it's going to have to be him. He's big and strong enough to believably beat anyone at WrestleMania, right? He's over enough to be over and, sell some tickets maybe. But that's it. Everybody else is worse, No one else has been pushed. The only people that have gotten pushes this year, period, are like Big E and Xavier Woods. Because he won the, King of the Ring, motherfucks. Everyone else has either been champion the whole year or sucks ass. So there you go, motherfucks. That's what I would say. Anyways, cuckolds, the haters back, so you can lick my bag. That's what I gotta say about that. See you motherfucks later, pin this bitch.